what is ego strength? Ego strength is the ability to move through the world without taking things personally. And that would be my definition. Not the things that people say, the things that people do, and the events that happen in the world. To have the strength in our sense of self to separate me from not me, and to be strong in the sense of me so that I can look reality in the eye as it is, and to be able to step up to the challenge and the opportunities that arise. When we don't have enough ego strength and we're not able to handle that challenge or confrontation, or our clients, they may not be ready for the challenge or the call to step up to become more that coaching invites people to do. And we can develop ego strength through building in boundaries between what's me and what's not me, to develop the strength to make a distinction, to not over-identify with things, to not allow things to get into my sense of self, my ego, and by working on different patterns and processes for developing unconditional self-esteem that we have, patterns for in neurosemantics and so on. So that's a bit of a summary on what is ego strength and why is it important for us as human beings, as well as to be aware of as a coach when you're filtering out clients or filtering in clients. One more thing that I'll add there is that, so how do we build it in? If I was to make like a quick checklist, I would say practice unconditional self-esteem. We have a pattern for that. I have a whole online home study program on the recipe for unconditional self-esteem, as well as that is one of the processes that we go through in the flagship training of neurosemantics, self-leadership, also known as accessing personal genius or coaching genius. We go through that process. I also have a really good YouTube video on the power of disidentification. And that's another very useful skill and technique to develop, to be able to disidentify from things, as opposed to over-identifying with things, which Alfred Korzybski, the founder of general semantics, which neurosemantics is kind of this, is built on top of general semantics and neurolinguistic programming, that Alfred Korzybski, founder of general semantics, said one of the biggest problems that we have as human beings, individuals, as well as in culture, is our over-identification with things, objects, words, ideas, and the solution was to disidentify, to unidentify. Actually, there's an entire way of communicating and writing called E prime, which the entire focus is to remove all of the to be verbs. So is, was, being, for the most part, to remove all identification from our thinking patterns and our communication patterns, our language patterns, to support us in disidentifying our self, which as Woody mentioned, is a concept of ours, to separate our understanding of who am I from all the things that I am not. And so as we start to extricate ourselves from all the things that we thought we were, as kids, we think we are our body. Well, as kids, we don't even have a self. When we're born, we don't even have a distinct self concept as separate from mother or as separate from world. And as we start to get older, we start to develop this sense of self. So who am I? What am I? I am a thing first, right? So we start to give meaning to ourselves. I am something, and it's different. There's distinctions from other things. And then we start to learn about our value, or we get messages that tell us I don't have value. So what am I? Am I valuable or not valuable? What is my purpose, or do I have a lack of purpose? And as we start to build this concept of ourselves, this essentially what we would refer to in normal vernacular as an identity. What am I? One of the problems is we start to over-identify, for example, with our bodies. I am my body. And, people who are on Instagram, a lot of these models and, photos. And so if I am my body, well, then I'm going to work on getting really fit and getting plastic surgery to look really beautiful. And then as I get older and aging kicks in, well, shoot, if I'm my body and my body is deteriorating, then I'm deteriorating. And so that leads to that leads to problems. And some people over-identify with their mind. I am my mind. Well, if you are your mind, your beliefs, your thoughts, well, what happens when your beliefs get challenged? Well, it tends to we tend to take it personally. And you can see that in politics or in organizations or all sorts of belief systems where people over-identify with their beliefs. And then when something is challenging that belief, whether inaccurate or whether accurate, it's something, so we need to extricate ourselves. We learn over time. Life teaches us to disidentify ourselves with those things, hopefully. I'm not my body. I'm not just my mind. I am more than my body. I'm more than my mind. I'm more than my beliefs. I'm more than my thoughts. And so I'm more than my past. I'm more than my choices. And so to start to disidentify from those things, which then makes, paradoxically, the more we disidentify with the temporary and ever-changing things in the process world of the physical world, the primary world, as we would call it in neurosemantics, or the outside-in world is another way of thinking about it. The more we disidentify with that stuff, paradoxically, the stronger we become as selves, because one of the things we want to do is fill ourselves, like Woody was saying, with our values, and to be congruent with my values, with my visions, with, and that's part of this maturation process as human beings, is learning to develop a strong ego, a strong sense of self, to be clear about what you are and to get clear about what you're not. And so, like I was saying earlier, this is something we can facilitate people to do with coaching. So we can, it's not a black and white thing. Someone is a therapy client, a patient, or a coaching client, and that there's a clear line, and there's gray in between. And so we can help someone to coach them to develop ego strength if they are open to be coached on that distinction there, to help yourself or your clients to become more coachable, to become ready for the journey of coaching. Or as I mentioned in a lot of other videos, we can refer to people who are more apt to handle that. So I always recommend my coaches to have some therapists that you can refer to when people aren't ready. And then once those therapists work with their patients, their clients, to help them to develop the ego strength, well, now you've got a healthy referral network. Well, they can send them to you now. And now this person is coachable. And so we can really build a really good collaborative, synergistic relationship between the fields of therapy and coaching, so that when we get more clear on that line, we know when to send clients to therapists, and therapists are becoming more clear about, oh, this person is ready maybe to step up to experience the adventure of coaching.
Just like to ask, I've been a therapist for decades, and making the switch over to outcome versus problem orientation is one of the bigger shifts that I have to make. It's one I fully grasp, but one of the things I've seen is too many coaches, and one of the problems I have with coaching per se is too many coaches don't recognize the boundary between coaching and therapy, and they freely cross the boundary, and probably 9 times out of 10 they'll get away with it. But there are boards of licensed professional counselors that will jump on your ass very easily and quickly if they catch you. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's just so important for us. And this is why I think that meta coaching, META-coaching, meta coaching, the branch of coaching that comes from the field of neurosemantics, is really leading out in the field of coaching to really be very clear about what is that distinction. What is the field of coaching? What is the psychology that drives the field of coaching? And how is that different than the models of psychology that drives therapy? And I think also it's not only a lot of coaches, as Woody mentioned, but I think it's also, in addition to the coaches, a lot of it is a lot of the coach trainings. And so a lot of the people who are training the coaches are training them to do light therapy light. Not saying that there's anything bad about those people or bad about that sort of training. I think it's just as coaching started to evolve as a field, there was really not that distinction at the beginning. It wasn't clear what is coaching, what is therapy, what are the differences. And over the decades, as the field of coaching has been growing, evolving, and maturing, those distinctions are becoming more clear. And so it's just a part of the evolution of the coaching field is to separate itself out and to make itself distinct from the other people helping, fields such as hypnotherapy or neurolinguistic programming or just any sort of type of therapy or mentoring or consulting. And so really working to create those clear boundaries about what is coaching, what is not coaching, and hopefully investing in learning that for yourself so you can be very careful and clear to not cross that line when it's inappropriate and to not get yourself into situations that are over your head or more than above your pay grade or really above your licensed capabilities as an individual who maybe comes in with good intentions, wanting to help and support people. But it's very possible that if you're getting involved, if you have coach training and you're doing therapeutic stuff, or you have some even coach training that where you learn how to do some therapeutic stuff, but you're not a licensed professional therapist in your area, to be really careful, because a lot of times if you bring some of the stuff you do, you can actually make people worse. If you're not aware of what you're doing and you're not calibrating and you're taking on stuff that's higher than you're capable of doing or different, let's say, than what you are trained and capable of pulling off. So really great questions, great comments, great feedback. And I'm curious if you have any other things to contribute, feel free to share them anywhere around this video.
Just real quickly, it's one of the higher level coaching functions to be able to say, hey, we're getting into an area that I'm not able to help you with. And if you would like, I will give you the name of 2 or even just 1 therapist that you can check it out. And once you resolve that, then you can welcome to come back. That's giving them options, which is one of the great things about NLP and neurosomatics that I've learned so far, is the function of options.
Yeah, and just to bring this conversation full circle and kind of closing out, is that to be able to do that as a coach requires you as the coach to have ego strength. Because if you think that I can't handle this and that means there's something wrong with me, or that I'm not good enough as if I can't handle the situation means anything personal about me as the coach, now we start to get really tangled here. And that's why in neurosemantics, we really put an emphasis on apply your tools and skills to yourself first. So work on developing your ego strength, because if you're not applying it to yourself in a way that's experiential, where you can live it and apply it in your day-to-day life, then you're really either not going to be able to notice that distinction in other people very clearly, or you'll find yourself in some sticky situations where, like we're saying here, where maybe you don't have the strength to go, hey, there's somebody that I know who might be more fitted for you. Why don't you go and do this sort of thing first, and come back to me when you're ready? And here's how we'll know and be able to measure and test when you are ready for the coaching, so that we can calibrate that. So ego strength, apply to self first, detect it in others, use it as a distinction to recognize, is this person coachable by me? Or not. And if not, have the ego strength to refer out to other practitioners. The stronger your referral network, the healthier your business is going to be, paradoxically, is what I found in my experience as a coach, because now you're starting to build these referral networks where you're getting clear about what I do, what I don't do, what this person does, what they don't, what this other person does, and what they don't do. And as we get better as coaches, to transcend this competitive mindset of it's me, I need the client. If they get the client, then I'm losing. This kind of win-lose mindset to a win-win mindset, where there's plenty of people in the world to be coached. There's plenty of opportunities for all of us. And as I get clear about what I do and what I don't do, and what other people do and what they don't do, we can create these clear, literal niches where it's like, this is my ecosystem where I work, this is yours. And we've got these boundaries in between. And that's one of the ways that I believe that as coaches, we can collaboratively and synergistically actually do what I imagine that most coaches got into coaching to do, which is to actually help people to grow, to become better versions of themselves, of course, starting with yourself as the coach, and then they can come out and impact their, and just to make the world a better place. And so paradoxically, ego strength relates with all these topics: therapy versus coaching, apply to self versus apply to others, and to really connect with your mission as a coach to help individuals and also to make the world a better place by figuring out your boundaries about what you do, what you don't do, and to have the ego strength to refer out when it's not relevant.